Thompson's there, Billy in. A goal, Billy Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Thank you.
In Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome to episode 158 of the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. I'm Matt Shaw and today I'm joined as usual by Kosi Bear and Jonny Gillespie. We okay, chaps?
Good, Matt.
Yeah, not so bad.
Good. This episode, as always, is sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing. Use our code of AHTTC10 at checkout at magicrockbrewing.com for a nice 10% off reward for you guys. So if you need to drown your sorrows like most of us do, look no further than Magic Rock. Okay. Right, so we're filming in front of everybody online. So thanks to those people who've joined us online. And we are in front of a live audience. So we will be throwing some questions to those of you who are good enough to listen to us ramble on. Okay, so we've got two games to get through today. By the lack of Twitter Spaces on Wednesday, you've obviously got a feel for the mood of us in the podcast. I have to be honest, I don't think I've felt this way about Huddersfield Town for a good 20 years, if I'm honest. I feel incredibly down on the football club at the moment, to a point of despondency almost. And to be honest, I'm on the verge of total apathy. I really didn't want to do a podcast tonight. I just can't be bothered wasting my time talking about this shit, if I'm honest. But here we are, regardless. Two games to get through. A Q&A, some witch hunting as well. Should be fun. Right, guys, I think a good point to start would be the Sunderland game, because the Sunderland game killed me a little bit, if I'm honest. I thought it was a real sort of killer blow, a game whereby I honestly thought Sunderland were there to be rolled over. And I don't mean beaten, I mean rolled over. They were, at a certain point in the game, utterly diabolical in the middle of the game. And we could barely muster an attempt on target. Like I say, we improved. It's an improved performance. We've Mark Fotheringham's changed a few things around, and we are looking better, aren't we, than what we previously were, and definitely better than what we were under Danny Schofield. But the game itself was a real kick in the teeth. You've got the chance for Dwayne Holmes. He's through 1-on-1 against Patterson, the Sunderland goalkeeper. He comes off his line well, but Dwayne should probably do a little bit better. It goes across to Jordan. Jordan really should just lay it off to Brahima Diarra to put it in the goal. He doesn't. He turns and whacks it over the bar, and they go down the other end and put the ball in the net. Good goal. Little arsehole scored, but que sera. And you know what? He got a load of sticks, so he's right that he could give it back. I'm one of these fans who say if you give it, you take it. Simple as that. But it stung. This stung. Not only did it stung that we've seen Yuta Nakayama out for maybe a year with his Achilles injury. That stung as well. Just after he'd come into a good bit of form. There are some positives in that some of the young lads came in and gave it a real good go, and they look bright for the future. Maybe not for this very moment, but Ben Jackson did very well, Brodie Spencer did very well, and there are a couple of things to be positive about. But I found this game, this result in particular, really difficult to sort of be happy. Well. To accept, because I felt that this was the first time I've gone, shit, we're getting relegated this year. This is not, we can't lose at home to Wigan, Blackpool, Sunderland. And that's I know I hate it when say you can't lose to teams like so-and-so, but if you're constantly losing to teams in the bottom half of the league at home, then the chances of staying up become incredibly slim. And for me, Jonny, this was just, like I said, this was a bit of a killer blow to my morale, if you like. So I'm a bit of a miserable bastard tonight, hence the title of the pod of misery. So cheer me up, mate.
Well, the thing, yeah,
I won't be doing. But it's not, just to hit on a point you said there. It's not losing to teams like Sunderland, and the fact that we should be beating teams like Sunderland because, so I mean, they've got a richer recent history than certainly we've got. But the reason why I felt the same with you in regards to where that result left us is because of what they'd done recently. They were, I mean, a poor team. They showed themselves to be a poor team on the pitch. That's not sour grapes. They weren't great. They were there to be rolled over. Before the goal, I think we were the better team, and it's a shame that the goal goes in and we completely lose the heads. We stopped doing all the things that we're doing, which was good. It wasn't remarkable, but there were good situations we were creating. We were comfortable to a certain extent, and that goal goes in and heads go down. That's it, and we lose 2-0. And someone said on Radio Leeds after the Millwall game. And I thought he was being a little bit pessimistic at the time. But he kind of said, I mean, one result won't save us. Yeah, it's good, but we need to continue into the Sunderland game. And we've absolutely not done that. And we've lost to a team that was on a significantly poor run. They'd not won in 4 or 5, even 6. They've gone and lost again at the weekend to Cardiff. So they were absolutely there. And the fact that they can turn us over 2-0, I know the second goal was a bit of a late one and etc. And there's issues around that. But yeah, I came away from the Sunderland game feeling very dejected purely because we just rolled over so easy and we're so easy to beat. And going into the Blackburn game, that positivity was just not there. I went because, like Kosi said on the social media today, he's absolutely right. I mean, he says it's you support your club, It's, I mean, you have good days, you have bad days, but the feeling for me now is it's a real struggle. And it's a real struggle to kind of be positive around it, really. There's issues on the field and off the field, but I think the Sunderland game, for me, I agree, was the first time, not the first time I thought we were in a relegation fight, but the first time I looked at it and thought we are really going to struggle to get these points that we need if we can't beat, not teams like Sunderland, but we can't beat teams that are on a run like Sunderland and are in the table where they are like Sunderland, are a newly promoted team like Sunderland. And that, for me, was the issue. It's what that result meant, and it's who we were playing and the run that they were on, and the game that we saw in front of us, and how easy we just gave up after one goal. Be that mentally, the mental strength to carry on and keep doing what we were doing. Like I say, what we're doing was okay. We created a good chance. I believe we could have created more chances had we not have conceded directly afterwards. But once that goal went in, it was just game gone. That was it. There wasn't really anything after that even to really discuss. So, yeah, worrying. Definitely worrying times.
So, I always look for little rays of sunshine everywhere, and there's always one man who brings a ray of sunshine to the podcast with his singing and his happiness and his excellent look out on life, and that is Mr. Kosmala. Kosi, we're looking at you to cheer us up here, mate. I'm sure.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure. Can you do it? Can you dig us out, mate?
Irony, because as soon as Pritchard had balled up and fallen over and got the jeers of the crowd, I turned to my mate and said, "You know what's coming here?" And then when he scored, we just laughed. We just laughed at each other, and he's there with his fingers in his ears. And I think that's some of the past season, Matt, to be honest with you, mate. Something we thought were positive turned into a real negative, and that as well. And I'm with you. I think you give it, you take it. I mean, people launching cups of tea and coins and that, a bit embarrassing, really.
Just,
and that fair play with mate. But yeah, much what you've said, guys. Really, yeah. I think the biggest thing for me coming into the game, the pressure was on us. The Tuesday results didn't go well. It's bad when you're looking at stuff like that, innit, in early November. But I just felt it's really weird. I just thought, did we really have a real positive podcast? And it's funny how you see things later on, because I think what Stephen Chicken said, yeah, it were a great win, but against Millwall, let's be honest, it would have took a fluke of a goal, and if Millwall had got the goal first, would we have got 2? And now, you know what, you'd start thinking, you doubt yourself, thinking, did we really kind of top it up so much on Sunday? So, yeah, but going into that, the team sheet, Matt, was always going to be the interesting one for me, because obviously Sorba weren't there. And again, like a lot of our games, you think, how can we really hurt them? Because it's just set pieces, that's all we seem to offer. And I'm thinking, who's going to really do anything there? And yeah, same old. I was surprised how bad they were. I know they won 1 in 8, but they offered nothing really. But I just knew we won. There were always, bits and a couple of players that worry you. And Pritchard, he was a beautiful bit of skill. Patrick Roberts is a player I've always liked. I know he's had his injury problems and stuff, but he's been around a little bit. But I just thought they can always provide a bit of quality in that as well. And I I thought the second goal as well. I mean, we were obviously caught out badly on the break. Probably Nichols could have done better than that as well. But yeah, I thought Diallo as well. He had a good game, Matt. Ran about,
Diallo,
I just felt they had more weapons than us, and ultimately in a game that's the problem that I have at the moment with Town. It's you're looking around who's going to do anything, and then when you think about it now, you think, bloody hell, did we really gamble on Tino? Really, Tino's that man, and he would hardly fit last season. He obviously poor lad had an illness, but again, can you pin your hopes on him? And who else we got? I mean, Thomas did well, but you never know, do you? You can have one good season, and then the season after can never be. Sometimes be like the hardest and that as well. So yeah, I were very kind of like you, mate, head down, touching out the ground. The only positive, you say positive, mate, we had absolute deluge, didn't we, during the game, but before and after it did rain, and so we weren't wet. That's probably about as good as I can say.
Yeah, that's true. It was bad, wasn't it?
At one point, I was watching how the ball were moving across, and I said to me, actually, we could probably benefit quite significantly from this game getting called off for our fitness issues. I thought if it keeps going, it wasn't probably too far off. But
I thought our crowd were good, but the goal from Pritchard, I think because it was Pritchard as well, it absolutely destroyed the place, and it was like a funeral. Then for the last 20 minutes, there were nothing from us, and their fans who were strangely pretty quiet on the night. They were, Sunderland till I die and Red White Army and all that. They've got their voice, but you couldn't help but feel that we've lost to a bad team and we needed to back it up. And yeah, I just thought I couldn't entertain Matt Fotheringham that night, Matt. I knew, as usual, everyone.
And you like Matt Fotheringham as well, don't you? That's
It was a sulking night, and I knew obviously be upbeat, but it made me mad because some of my friends were like, "Have you heard him saying this and that?" But what's he supposed to say? We were shit. We're going to get relegated. As young players are out of the day. He's going to say anything
when he said that, he's been slated for that anyway, hasn't he?
Exactly.
So he can't really win.
But I think the trouble is now everyone's analysing absolutely every single word that he's saying and that as well. So for me, I just thought stay clear of it. But you didn't need it because everyone's putting on Facebook. Did you hear that? He said this and that and the other. But mate, he's got to try and talk up his team. He's not going to
There's a team lacking confidence there. He can't wade in and tell them how shit they are in front
but
of
I think the youth thing really was the real kicking the balls for everyone, not at least alone him and that as well. I mean, it's a cruel game, isn't it? When just only 4 days ago he was okay, fluke or meant for it ever, but that big smiling face with his gum shield. I found that hard to get out of my head on Thursday, mate. Once I heard the news and obviously that he were done in the World Cup, and God, you just hope he can come back from it. But he just he didn't deserve that. And I just think it sums up what the town, mate. The Pritchard thing, the Utah thing. It's if it can go wrong, it is going wrong. And yeah, well, there's not a lot of sympathy about for anyone at the moment. Yeah, I just think we just can't buy anything at the moment, mate. And Wednesday night, yeah, it was a bit of a. I had a couple of pints after the game. I was ready to drown my sorrows, man. I was like Jim McDonald. Remember him in Coronation Street? He used to love a drink, did old Jim, didn't he, in the Rovers? And yeah. I kept, so disappointing because they were poor, weren't they?
Yeah, I think Nakayama's a real shame because he was just starting to look quite decent as well, wasn't he? At left back, it looked like he was just settling in, and that back four of Tom Lees, Turton, Hellick, and Nakayama started to look quite solid behind Lee Nichols, and then all of a sudden we've lost 3 of them, and we genuinely can't catch a break this year. I know Tom Lees is hopefully only out for a little period with COVID, but it's very difficult, isn't it? And you've got to credit Brodie Spencer. He came in and I thought he did quite a good job at right back. His first championship start. Ben Jackson I thought was really good on left midfield, and the substitution where he's put Josh Ruffles to centre back and Ben Jackson to left back, I just found a little bit disappointing in a way. I know it's hindsight, isn't it? But Ruffles for me isn't a centre back in a 4, and at that point the game's 0-0. It's poise, isn't it? You would think if you've got 2 centre backs on the bench, one of them surely is good enough to actually play in the role that he's supposed to play. Will Boyle played against Blackburn and did fine. He was quite decent. Ruffles there and Jackson, and we've removed that attacking threat from Jackson from the left then, and it's had a negative effect as that.
I do agree. He did. He answered the question. Who asked him? He answered the question in his press conference, I think, pre-match Blackburn about it, and he effectively said that he didn't trust them better. Really, is what I got from that. He kind of mentioned that he's had a couple of issues, jumping mistakes, and he's protecting from the squad. Well, I think that's a worrying case if you're in Betty. And then he said that obviously Boyle's come back from a knee injury, and he didn't want to. I mean, he couldn't going at that time through his minutes is what I took from that.
But he's played
But
90
then,
minutes
but
3
he's
days
played a full,
later. So.
but he's played a full 90 on the Saturday. So whether he's thinking he's if he comes on, and can he play the 90? I don't know. But for me, you've got to address the game that's there. And if you're looking at targeting games, the Sunderland game is a game you target more than the Blackburn game. So a strange one. Strange. I mean, I agree. I think it affects us negatively doing that and moving players around. Given that Ben Jackson, who I thought was having a really good game and is an attacking threat, but yeah, he does answer that. But again, I don't know how much. I'm not saying I believe him, but I think it's strange that, do you know what I mean, Boyle was able to play and play very well on Saturday as well. So yeah, an odd one.
I don't really have much else to say on Sunderland. On that game, it wasn't a particularly good night. The traffic home was an absolute joke as well. Didn't get home till about 11:10.
Yeah, so it's just like taking a piss. So I got a bus from Huddersfield after a couple of pints, and right in front of our bus were a Sunderland team bus. It would almost, I could just see Pritchard coming on, flicking V's probably.
You'd have deserved it after all you've said on this podcast the last 3 years, to be fair. Yeah. And then the next one, Blackburn 1, Huddersfield 0. Let's go to YouTube. I did actually put on here. I'll just bring this across to this screen. I did actually ask for some people to cheer us up. We've been a little bit miserable, haven't we, today? And who can blame us? But let's have a look what we've got. So I've put, tell us something to cheer us up. Anything, please. Terrier792 says, the bit that hurts most is we got over 15 million in transfer fees in summer, and Bromby thought Ward and Rhodes would still be good enough. Over 45 years since I started watching Town, I am totally done. Phil Marston says, Fotheringham, never the man. Nothing against him personally, but we needed an experienced head-in. Ben Roberts says, I'm bringing my 5-year-old over from Madrid to watch Town versus Swansea. I guess at least dizzy penalties will be entertaining. Kosi, you love Madrid. That's your haven, isn't it? So you would never leave if you had the choice, would you?
What are you doing, pal? That's all I'll say. But yeah, the season finishes Wednesday for 7 weeks, so bring him over, Ben. Get him some football, man.
Yeah, I hope he enjoys it, Ben. So good, safe travels to you. Leo says Sunderland was a game we needed to win. It was game over once Pritchard scored. Away games, I'm not sure where the next points are coming from. Positives, young players will prosper next season. Christian Kudarenko says, maybe we have been so bad that I forgot what good looks like, that I think we haven't played too bad in the last couple of games, and we are horrible in the final third. I think that's accurate, to be honest, Christian. I think we've improved as an 11, specifically in terms of our organisation and the actual compactness of the defensive unit as well. I think we've definitely improved. It's just the final third where we're absolutely revolting at the minute. Ben Roberts says, anyone know if we can expect Tyree Simpson to be fit anytime soon? Or at least he would offer something different up top? No, is the answer to that, Ben, I'm afraid, at the minute.
February, someone said to me.
Yeah, I heard that as well.
Even longer.
John Shaw says, Matt summed up the biggest problem, apathy. Once the anger is replaced by a can't be asked, then the writing is sadly on the wall, sadly going to take a full reset, I think. Freddie Cocker says, reckon Boothie's got anything in his legs left to bring out of retirement after Sorba's crosses. Can you imagine that, throwing Boothie and Kyle Hudlin on in the last 5 minutes, just get Sorba banging those balls in.
I'll tell you what was interesting yesterday with Matt with Blackburn is that I stood there and gave a big round of applause off on that as well, because I had a bit of a ding-dong with the guy. We ended up walking out arm in arm out of the ground, and that's well. Honestly, it looked like we were going to start me, but I was ready for it. I was ready to go with it. But he was walking down there saying, this is shit. This is absolute. I was like, mate, this wasn't shit at all. We were play the second place team in the league, and we should have got a draw of it. That's not shit. We're just not right good. But it says there's a difference between shit and not giving a shit, and that what you saw there says we were good. And what do you mean? So and then obviously we're discussing with Donny and stuff like that. And he was just totally frustrated with the lad and that as well. And we were saying, can we stay up? And we kind of had a chat out of it and that as well. But his anger I looked in his eyes, it were kind of I think, everyone, I mean, some people walk down there with a Bromby Out banner and stuff. These people are so frustrated. And yesterday was so frustrating, Matt, because I was chatting to a Blackburn fan on the way back to the car, and he said that for that, he said, you must be pissed off for not getting a draw. I says, I am. I says, I'm pissed off at our team for kind of not getting that second, because I says, for 65 minutes, we were all over you, and that's when we just camped out on our defence. But The thing that really annoys me, Matt, you mentioned the quality there. The number of times we kind of got really easily, I thought, to the edge of the area, time after time. But Dwayne Holmes really frustrated me yesterday. Everything he did was wrong. The last ball, the shooting when he shouldn't have done, and stuff like that. So they had one of them frustrating Dwayne Holmes.
He has games like that every now and then, doesn't he?
Yeah, but it's the number of times we got in and around. We were getting behind people, and just it just won't. You just again, it's just that quality bit, Matt. And Ben Brennan and Diaz, I know it would have, but Brody Spencer will want it back, as they say. But it was just like once he gets that ball and he sends Ellick back to Burnley and he smashes it in. That's the quality. Pritchard Wednesday night. That's the quality. But we ain't got that. Well, we're very limited in who's got it and that as well. And that's the frustrating thing for me. I just don't think that's something you can. You're on about luck. I just think quality, you've got it all you want. I mean, like Ellis Sims on their bench on Wednesday night, Matt, that's someone to bring on.
Don't trigger me. You know how much I've liked Ellis Sims for the last 18 months.
Yeah. So there's a lot of anger about it at the moment. But for me, that's why I clap, because I just thought what's out there did as well as they could for me. And I know Johnny's got an interesting view, and a few of us took that Blackburn and not all that, and it's flattering them. And I get that. You looked at them, I thought, are they really... I think they were a bit nervy after they got beat at Coventry on Tuesday night, but it was just the word is just sheer frustration because. But then part of me thinks, Matt, we could have scored. I don't know, 10 minutes ago, make it 1-1. We'd have gone back into shell again. So there were people, and I can kind of get the argument. We're kind of criticising for them, saying, "Would we have really? Why are we doing this last 25 minutes? Why are we not doing it from minute 1?" But I just looked. It's just like comparing teams. I'm just thinking. It sounds like the Chris Powell thing, but we're not we can't compete. But honestly, the team that we've got out.
So we're shy. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
No, Matt, if you'd have offered me an hard luck story at Blackburn, 1-0, going out there feeling a bit of grief, get 1-0 at the start of the game, it's a bit pathetic, mate. But that's where I'm at with town. I'd have took that, mate.
Let me finish these comments and then we'll come to Blackburn. Leo says Simpson and Tino fit after World Cup break. Tino's back in training now, so hopefully Tino will be back soon. Like I say, we've heard different things on Simpson. Christian Kudarenko says be a different animal when Tyrese gets going. Let's see. Phil Master says our recruitment nothing short of abysmal. No wonder Carlos left. You're not far wrong there, Phil, in terms of why Carlos left. Freddie Cocker says looking forward to getting Charlton away back next year, potentially Leyton Orient as a London-based town fan. Every cloud, etc. Leyton Orient's quite a decent away day, isn't it? But I don't really fancy it at this moment in time.
But people really jacked it in, though. I don't see that.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't feel that way, Matt. I don't feel that way.
No, I don't.
And the young players that we've got, they're one of the reasons I kind of enjoyed the last couple of games. But you can't knock Brody Spencer. You cannot knock what is happening out there. With a lot of these young guys. I thought Kamara to me yesterday looked like he needed a rest, but he had to play. We got hardly anyone else and that as well. And Diarra, I know we had a bit of a difference of opinion on his performance on Wednesday night, but I was enthused by him, mate, coming on and stuff. And that's the heartbreaking thing for me. We've got these young kids who there's no way I'm going to knock any of these guys because they're in the frying pan, man. And that's Bromby Out is going to shoot that quality. He's going to unfortunately expose even some of the best defenders. So he's going to do it against a young guy. But that's why I find it to get hard to with anyone because Foddenham's got what he's got to play with. The young guys are giving their best and getting probably found out and stuff. And it's just the frustration really is above that. It's got to the stage to think that we could muddle through to January with just Ward and Rhodes and every passing game. Did he even get a touch yesterday, Ward? I can't remember getting hold of the ball, to be honest, Matt. Honestly.
Not much. Not much. He's not really looked the same as he since April when he got those injuries.
No.
He seems
Rhodes,
like he's struggling.
mate, but it switched in it today in a paper, but to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a different style of striker, and we always knew we needed that. And that's that if we do go down and obviously it's getting shorter and shorter as the games left, that's where it'll be done for me. But I just find it hard to get mad with what the players on the pitch like clapping. There were people, it was just frustrating from a lot of people, but you couldn't boo that yesterday because everyone did as well as
no, it wasn't a booable performance, was it? It wasn't amazing by any stretch, but it wasn't crap either. No. Terry 7-2 says MF subs versus Sunderland was a joke. If he does not trust Mbeti, why put him on the bench? Leo says Mark Fotherham doesn't help himself. He needs to tone down his comments post-match about playing fantastically well, but still lost, and on another day would have won that game. I'll come to that because whilst I'm speaking, I'm in the Championship chat group and I've seen a Blackburn Rovers fans been. I think Mark Fotheringham's comments seem to have rattled Blackburn Rovers fans for some reason. But we'll come back to that. Freddie Cocker says all of our young players look promising, but how many are ready for a dogfight? I agree with Kosi, but the lack of goals is very worrying. Can't blame Fotheringham too much with what he's got to work with right now. Ben Roberts says his kid has to suffer. That's exactly what being a Huddersfield Town fan is about, Ben. Suffering. Mike Terra72 says something to cheer you up, Matt. If we stay up, I will burn my chest hair. We'll have to do that live on the podcast and some very strange sights there. He's not doing it in my house. I could do it in his own house, Kosi. And then Christian Kudarenkos. Yeah. All we can hope is some experienced players come back in over the World Cup break and somehow hit the ground running and a bit of luck falls our way. John Shaw says Kosi mentions quality. Doesn't that, despite the acknowledged injuries that come back to the recruitment and Bromby's failure this summer? Look, we'll come back to Lee Bromby after the Blackburn game because I think we probably have some different views on that, and I think maybe some mitigating factors as well. But thanks for your comments. Keep them coming as well because we do love chatting to you guys, and this is a fan channel, and it doesn't work without fans getting involved. So Blackburn 1, Huddersfield Town 0. I feel like we've talked about this game now, Kosi. I don't really have a lot to say. Town have now scored 1 goal in the last 5 games. There's a gap opened up at the bottom, I think, with 5 or 6 points. I think it's 5 points, isn't it, to 4th, but it might as well be 6 with the goal difference. The young lads did okay again. The goal itself. Now, the goal, I'm going to open this message. Hang on a second. Where is it? Where are we? Dan Ainsworth from Rovers Chat. Good lad, Dan. You spoke to him, didn't you? The Kosi at the end of last week.
Said we'd lose 2-0, so I got it wrong, didn't I?
It says, at Matt Show, why is your manager chatting such shit? I think this goes back to what Elliot Jackson, so Elliot, who does the Championship Chat pod, is the writer for Blackburn. Used to write for The Examiner, did Elliot. Nice lad. But he's put a tweet which says, where are we? This is me well provided. Here we go. So he's commented here about Mike Fotheringham's post-match thing going, remarkable claim, blah, 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 blah. It's a little bit sensational in some ways. He's put Fotheringham said, Rovers are flying with confidence. They never really troubled us at all. They had a few shots where Leah's made great saves, and their goal is just a long clearance up the pitch. And it seems to have rattled a lot of Blackburn fans who seem to be suggesting that Harry Pickering's ball down the middle was somehow Glenn Hoddle-esque in its execution and technique. I'll be honest, I don't think Mark Fotheringham's that far wrong, in all honesty. Blackburn were the better side for an hour in this game for me. But did they really have shot after shot after shot and make Lee Nichols work that hard? Not really. They had a couple of opportunities, but nothing major. I think Nichols made a decent save in the second half, and then the third save he made was from Brereton Diaz, wasn't he? When we were chasing the game in the last couple of minutes. I don't think he's that far.
Backfired. Yeah, that was a bad sub.
Yeah, I don't think he's that far wrong. And the ball down the middle from Pickering, all right, it's a classic curving ball, isn't it? Whereby it's difficult to deal with. But for me, an experienced right back deals with that. And it's not to dig out Brody Spencer. It's a difficult ball for an 18-year-old starting his second championship game to deal with, isn't it? But for me, an Ollie Turton maybe deals with that. Or if Tom Lees is playing as your right-sided centre-back, he's over to help Brody Spencer a little bit quicker.
Do better there, Matt. It was so
it
slow
does, yeah.
To me.
And to be honest, it's not a good goal to concede. So I'm not sure why Blackburn fans are that upset by the comments, if I'm honest. It's not a world-class goal or anything. It's a ball... It's a speculative ball down the middle of the pitch. It's a decent speculative ball down the middle of the pitch. He's curved it to make it come back in. Brereton Diaz has done very well. He's a class player at this level. And he's cut in, and that cutback has completely taken Hellet out, and the finish is good. Fair play. I don't really think the comments are particularly wild. I don't think they're particularly accurate either, because Blackburn were the better side for 65 minutes. But I think after 65 minutes, we genuinely came back into this and played quite well. And I think that's probably the game plan, Jonny, was just to keep things tight, not concede, and then try and nick it in the last half an hour. Because I think if we score first, we're obviously a far better side. But I think if we score first early away from home, we'll probably struggle to keep keep in the game. So for me, I think the game plan was just to be annoying, keep it tight, and score first later on. But unfortunately, Blackburn scored, and we're never going to come back from that.
Yeah, I was, you know, because he said something when he was analysing the game. Then I think when I listen to Kosi, he does actually fill me a bit more confidence and happiness, and he's kind of changed my opinion a little bit. Because when I came out of that game, there was two things. Well, first of all, I do think Blackburn do play that ball quite a bit, so maybe that's why they're a little bit annoyed that it's kind
it's
of
not a clearance. It's not a clearance, is it? It's not a clearance.
They do look for that, but equally, I do agree with you that no. I mean, I'm not having a go at Bury Spencer. He's probably slightly, yard out position, a very experienced striker at this level, takes advantage of that, and then, you've covered that. So Helic probably should do better, but Diaz is a good player, puts the ball in the back of net, fair enough. But I can probably see why they're probably a little bit blue and white glasses from their side, and Fotheringham probably a little bit tongue in cheek what he says, and that's why they've got a bit annoyed. But I won't be too bothered if I was sat second with 3 points. But just going back to your point around the game then. So I feel, as much as I feel, because the last 20 minutes we were threatening, sometimes I feel you can come out of the game being a bit more positive. I think sometimes equally, if you're a bit crap for the last 20 minutes, you can come out of the game feeling a bit more negative. But I do think the first 65 minutes, we really didn't offer a lot, if anything. In the first half, we had 2 shots, we didn't have one on target, so we had absolutely nothing. I think that was the issue for me. It was the fact that when we started to press Blackburn and kind of show a bit in the game, Blackburn had taken off a striker and put on a centre back, clearly looking to shut up shop. An interesting tactic for a team that's doing so well. And I guess it's to be really negative. It's how much allowed us to then have a bit more of the ball. Like I said, that's a real significant tactical change. We're going to be able to carry the ball a bit more. They were sitting deeper with the extra centre back on, taking Gallagher off, and we did create again a chance, a Stonewall chance, a clear cut chance to score. Where we're going, it's another one, and we've sat on this podcast pretty much every week saying there's a chance in most games where if you had that chance again, 9 times out of 10 he scores. So Fotheringham probably could look at that and say, well, if we take that chance, which we should do, it's a 1-1. But again, not to be negative, but it is negative. I don't know how, after the game, I don't know how confident I was. If that had happened, if that goal went in, whether we've got enough to then see it out, because Blackburn do come out and the game's different. But I don't know. Equally, listening to what Kosi was saying before, I guess it is the fact that we are playing a team that's second. I don't think Blackburn looked absolutely incredible. Whether that was through, just being tight, just containing, they didn't feel the need to.
I think that's credit to us a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think that is credit to us, and like I say, we did play some good football, but I don't know what. It's either why were we trying to be tight? Were we trying to be get to half time, get to 0 and take a chance? Okay, fair enough. Or equally, why can't we show that a little bit sooner? I don't know. I just felt that it was just all a little bit too late, and I think players just need to take the opportunity to shoot as well. So many times we cut inside and look to play a pass into the box, and again, if you just push pause at that point in time, people passing into players' feet, well, that's a bit of confidence. We're not scoring goals. We've only scored 1 goal in out of play whilst Fotheringham has been at the club, so it's clearly not something we're doing a lot of. But I just think so many times we've got into good opportunities and just didn't quite make the right decision, and it's just frustrating. I think from Fotherham's perspective, I can understand where he's coming from. I think that the headline's been quoted harshly on him. Do you know what I mean? In the Examiner, and obviously on what you've quoted there off Twitter, he's not coming out and saying it's the best performance and we were incredible. What he's trying to get at is the fact that we are still creating chances, and there were prolonged periods of time in that game where we were on top, and do you know what I mean? For a period of time we were camped outside their box, but out of all that, we only created 1 real clear-cut chance. I think that is still the problem. If we get it, we'd take the point, and we've got a away point against second. And I think that's a fantastic point. But I don't know. It's just, I think we're at this stage now where we just need the points. And how many times are we going to point to a situation where we feel, well, that could have got us it, that could have got us it. And it's like, well, there's going to come a point where something needs to give and we actually need to start getting points, and it's not to be negative. And I think that's where sometimes a bit of the anger comes from fans, like the fan Kosi was saying there. I don't think a lot of fans know where to direct that frustration or anger, because it's absolutely right that you can't do it at the players. Because look at the players who go on the pitch, and the situation they're in and the age and experience they've got, it's fantastic. I mean, Will Boyle was a laughing stock, and I think he's changed 99% of fans' opinions of his performance on Saturday.
Good game. Fair play to Will.
Clear,
fair play.
Clear man of the match. And going back to some of the chances you saying there that Nichols had stopped, Will Boyle puts 2 excellent tackles in, one which was absolutely stonewall going in back of the net, but he comes across, covers somebody else's man and puts a tackle in. So you can't really direct it at the players. To direct it at Fotheringham's harsh. I think there have been signs of improvement with a depleted squad, which is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. To point it at Bromby is equally harsh, and then we're going to come on to that too. And then even you turn around to the board. So I think fans are just angry and don't really quite know where to put the anger to. But I think for the players that we've got on the pitch, you've kind of convinced me, because that in a way a 1-0 loss at Blackburn, would you take it before kick-off potentially, given the situation we're in? But it's equal. That's not a fantastic thing to be saying, is it? So it's just hard to know what to feel or think, really.
I think what's frustrating for me, Jonny, is that at the moment everyone's just getting it, and there were so many people yesterday I spoke to was slagging. I was like, "Did you watch the game?" No, I didn't. But it was shit, and Peter Kay, this, that, the other. So it's like a lot of people.
Okay.
They just see the end result, and I get it's result business. And last year, and even in that year under David Wagner, we played some absolute dog shit football, but we won, and people just remember the results. But what disappoints me a little bit, but I get people are just so fed up. It's like people will not give anything. People say, "No, are we much better under Fotheringham than we are in Scotland?" Well, we're fucking miles better. Oh, sorry, my language. We're miles better. Well, not miles better. Well, we're a lot better than that. We are improving, but people won't give them that, and people, because we're not getting the results, winning and things like that as well. I think the biggest worry for me, Matt, is that we keep hearing about this long injury list, and we have. It made me laugh. He said 11 players out. We're trying to think, who the hell are these 11? Because I could only count about 5 or 6 that are out for ages. But you know what, Matt? Tino, I want to think. What it West Brom or Stoke with that worldie? Which one was it?
West Brom.
West Brom. But that is like kind of a passing ship. We didn't see that much because he hardly ever played. But apart from that, who's out of them that's out? How many are going to come back and like affect the goals for column? Because I don't think there's hardly any. So I'm struggling to kind of buy into that at the moment. I get,
it's a lot of,
Pearson make
Pat Jones is going to have to come with the next Ryan Giggs, isn't he?
Absolutely.
For that. And he's good, but there's
you're relying
too
on
much
2 lads
there.
that are so raw and stuff and that. So that's what gets me down a little bit, Matt, because if these were kind of like top quality or proven kind of attacking players, then they were back in December, I'd even think we could still maybe get out of it. But at the moment, I just think we've just got to go big in January. But even then, it could be too late. That's the thing that's really getting me down, because it's like it's them people that you're relying on a Pat Jones and a Tino, just total like inexperience. That is it.
The only thing I'd say as well, I mean, you might disagree with me on this, but I don't know whether to take that Blackburn game as a real example. It's like I said, they took off a striker and put a centre back on, and for quite a bit of the game, we were looking to kind of put it up to Hellick. He spent quite a bit of time up at the top trying to knock it down. So you've got players like, I know he's not exactly done anything incredible, but I just feel we take Ward off the roads. I think, okay, maybe that's fitness wide, and it's not the fact we can play both, we can keep both on. Do it again? There might be a reason for that, but we do have other attacking players on the bench that just didn't even get on the pitch. And I think, why don't we just not gamble a little bit? We might go down 2 or 3, and fair enough, and it might be an absolute car crash. But we're at the point now where you've got 15 minutes left in the game. You're 1-0 down away from home. If you lose 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. I just feel we need to create, like David Hart says all the time, create a bit of chaos. I just feel we're too rigid. It's like for like, swap like for like. Diarra came on and did do better. I'd quite like to maybe see him a little bit earlier on, because I must admit I was a bit with you, because I didn't see much in the Sunderland game on Matt in the Sunderland game, but I did think he did do quite a bit in the Blackburn game. But
give us something different.
Can we not just roll the dice a bit more? And I just got the whole game under. Was it Blackpool? The Blackpool Boxing Day game where Coburn just chucked on about 7 attacking players. Aaron Rowe came on, everyone came on, and we did it. We turned it around 3-2, and more from not, it probably won't work. But I feel I wanted just gamble a little bit more. We're 1-0 down away from home. What's the worst that can happen? Chuck on Mahoney. He might slip over the ball and give away, or do a Gerrard and pass it back and they score. So be it. But at least it was very just like for like. That's the only thing I would say. That's not to be really negative towards Fotheringham, but I just think, could we not just roll the dice a little bit more and just lose the, do you know what I mean, sensibleness of it all?
I mean, Wagner used to throw Mark Hudson and Heffley up front, didn't he? And that just that was chaos. That was like the ultimate chaos. But we need to kind of move on in a minute.
Alec and Boyle were up quite a bit. I did feel we'd do that. That only thing was weird because I thought, especially Law the X and all that, and their guy was sitting me on that podcast last week. Oh, the crowd won't give him a good reception. Says he won't probably get on the pitch, and I ended up being right on that. But it's just. Part of you wonders as well, Jonny. Like Radoni. I mean, I still have nightmares on seeing that miss. But it's like, is it just a confidence thing? Radoni gets one because I mean, he would say that, but Fotheringham did say in his press conference. What did he say? He would be on fire or something, didn't he? If he gets a goal, part of me wonders. Yeah, he gets a goal.
Maybe it might be right. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I think Radoni's got it. I think Radoni's personally. I didn't think he was amazing against Blackburn, but he had a really good game against.
It's good against
Sunderland. Their manager picked him out, and I'm definitely in Radoni's will be a player camp. I just think he does just need that bit of confidence in that goal. I do rate Radoni. I think some fans are a bit kind of like made a decision on him, but I think he's a good player. I think there's a player in there, but you've got to recognise his age, where he's come from. He's new into Championship, and he's in a dogfight with a dressing room that's probably very down. So, but I think if he does get a goal, he could be a player second half of the season, especially if you have someone around him who's doing a little bit as well, like an Andrew or someone who comes into a bit of form alongside him as well, or Pat Jones comes back. That will help. Because at the moment, it's very just there's only really one or two players on the pitch that can do a bit. So I do think Radoni's got it in him if he can just get that goal personally.
Yeah. So I've changed the. So for those of you watching on YouTube, I've slightly changed the background there because there was a banner, wasn't there, sort of saying Bromby Out on that, and obviously we need to chat about that. So any comments on YouTube? Remember, this is a live pod, so let us know your thoughts on this as well. So Halloween has passed, but Huddersfield Town is still going full Salem, isn't it, with wanting to burn a witch. So, and that witch is Lee Bromby at the minute. I completely understand the Huddersfield fans' frustration. I think, Jonny, you touched upon a really good point there, is that the majority of Huddersfield fans aren't going to turn on a lot of the young players because they can see them trying and they're physically maybe not quite there yet, are they? There's a long injury list. Mark Fotheringham's been in the building 5 minutes practically. And Dean Hoyle's kind of disappeared into the background, hasn't he? So, the man who's there is Lee Bromby, and he's the target for people at the minute. And I understand the frustration. I understand the head coach decisions as well, the roles, giving it Danny Schofield, and Mark Fotheringham's not particularly inspiring, but was Carlos Corberán inspiring? The 11 on the field, they can't score. They're not creating chances. We sat bottom of the league. And everybody's wanting to point fingers, get the pitchforks and chase someone out of the club. They want someone's head to roll, don't they? And I understand why people are angry and frustrated. But is Lee Bromby the only person to blame? I've seen Pozza tried to stick his head above the parapet and kind of say that, didn't he, on Twitter? And he got some absolute pelters from people. But I don't think he's wrong in many ways. For me, this goes back to the summer. Jonny, I'll ask you a question. When a company sells the majority of its sellable assets and it decreases its outgoings in terms of wages to the very bottom level it can, what is it doing? Come on, you work in this. It's preparing for a sale, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
So for me,
you make it the most attractive for someone to come in and buy it.
Exactly. I hear bits. I don't tell a lot on the podcast because you don't want to. It's the famous Huddersfield Town thing, isn't it? You don't want to betray trusts and all that. But somebody who I trust a lot told me that the wage bill last season was circa 12 million, which was a bit of a miracle. We got in the playoffs on that. And over the summer, Dean scalped that down to around 8 million, which, when bringing in Helic, etc., has increased that up a little bit. But if you're going in with a wage bill of 8 million quid, which is going to be the lowest in the Championship, and you're going to have 4 or 5 League One clubs competing with you and even offering more money, how is that Lee Bromby's fault? He's swimming in a pool of piranhas there. He's bringing in, I know people go, well, Will Boyle's crap, Conor Mahoney's crap. Yeah, but for $4 or $5 a week, who else is Lee Bromby going to be able to bring to this football club? If Lee Bromby's, where I'm trying to go here is that, Huddersfield Town were in for Zion Fleming in the summer. They were in for Carlton Morris. These players have gone elsewhere because Huddersfield Town could not compete financially with Luton or Millwall. And it's fine saying Lee Bromby, and Betty's crap. Kane Kessler-Hayden's not playing. Yeah, that's fine. You can proportion blame to Lee Bromby for some of this, but the loans in particular. But I look at Huddersfield Town and think, what can he do with that wage bill? What can he possibly do other than get very lucky, like he did the previous year, where Phil Hodgkinson brought the wage bill down from 20 odd million to 12. He got very lucky, I think, in terms of Tom Lees doing so well, Matty Pearson doing so well. I don't think for a minute that they thought they would do as well as what they did. Levi Colwell was obviously a very good signing. I think where I'm trying to go with this is that if you scalp back what the club can pay out so far, and you misjudge, the impact that the likes of Carlos Corberán had on those players, you misjudge the impact Lewis O'Brien had on that midfield, which has happened, in my opinion, at the club. You're left in a very precarious position. And Lee Bromby has, there are obvious mistakes in recruitment here. He's obviously had a little bit of money to spend, not masses, but a little bit in Championship terms. He's brought in Radoni, 800 grand or something, I think that was. He's spent very little on Hudlin and Simpson and Kasumu. So there's money that's gone out. Helic obviously came out, but Helic, the money only came for Helic once Matty Pearson injured himself in pre-season. That Helic wouldn't have come if Matty Pearson was still, going out on the pitch. That's a desperation signing in some ways. Maybe not desperation, but that's an enforced signing, should we say. I think in an ideal world, Lee Bromby would have liked to have got better calibre of players in, but this is the pool that Huddersfield Town are swimming in. And the problem is we have to get very lucky, and the punts that we take have to come off. And there's so little room for error that if we get it wrong, this is what happens. And, we have got it wrong. But I find it very difficult to point one finger only at one person and say, this is all your fault. Because, like I said to someone earlier, you can't make porridge from dust. You know what I mean? You need the right ingredients. And for me, he's not innocent by any stretch for the position that we find ourselves in, of course. But when you've got so little tools to do the job, where does it go? Is this all his fault, Jonny? I can't sit here and say this is down 100% to Lee Bromby.
No, I think there's two areas that you judge Lee Bromby on. At the end of the day, we've got to understand that Lee Bromby is an employed member of staff at the football club. I mean, it's not his coin that he's running it with. He doesn't decide how much we spend or don't spend. So you can judge him on recruitment. And okay, we can look at recruitment as we sit now after the Blackburn game, or we can look at recruitment as it was at the beginning of the season. The reason why I say that is the recruitment beginning of the season I thought was okay. I think there were gaps, and we highlighted that on the pod right at the beginning. But to look at the players we brought in, I think Radoni is a good signing. He fits what we're looking to do in the fact that his young players had a good season. It was an area that we needed to recruit in, so he ticks those two boxes. And he's a player that fits the mould in regards to will hopefully have a successful spell at Huddersfield. And so when people say we're not a selling club or get upset about being a selling club, that everyone's a selling club. So I mean, even Chelsea are a selling club, sold to Madrid. So the fact that he does well at Huddersfield and he can go on to better things, and we can profit from that, A, on the pitch, and B, in a bank balance. So I think he fits the bill. Similar to Kasumu. I think Kasumu's been really, really good. And And I think the players that we brought in around the B team are also similar as well. The loans, okay. And Betty's not been fantastic. I think Keke Hayden's been all right when he was on the pitch. He's had one absolute mare, and we've not really seen him since. And whether it's something to do with his training side, okay, fair enough. Mahoney, I think, was a reasonable punt for what we spent. I still think he's all right. He's not really got much of a game. And Will Boyle got man of the match in his last game. So I think he's actually a little bit better than we maybe give him credit for. But again, that's why I said, do we look at where we are now or the beginning of the season? But they're the players. But equally, you've got to look at, again, like Matt says, what has he got? What assets has he? What availability he's got to funds? How much can he spend? There's no doubt, whatever you give Bromby, he'll spend. It's not kept money. It's not gone back to the board or Dean or whoever's going to make the decisions at the moment and saying, no, don't give me that extra 10, 20k a week to spend on wages. I don't need it. I don't want it. So I think with the money that he's got, I don't know. I'm not a scout, but I don't know what players we could have got on a similar budget that would have made a significant difference. There were some players who might have hit form a bit earlier. They might have, like Rodoni did well last year, but he might have got someone who's hit the form and got the goals and maybe done a little bit this year. Accept that. But on paper at the start of the season, I don't know who we could have got for the budget who is better. That's one area you can judge Bromby on. And based on that, I don't think you can say he's done that bad. The second area is the managerial appointments, of which he's made 2 this season. And Schofield, like I say, on paper, I can understand why they went down that route. It's clearly not worked, so that's probably a negative score. Fotheringham does split opinions. I think some people might have preferred at that point to break the mould, break the model that Town have, and bring in a manager, an experienced manager. They might think like an O'Neill, like Stoke did, and might have got more out of it. But I honestly don't know, given the way of what's happened now with the injuries, the squad, the team that would be available to an O'Neill or somebody like that. I don't know how much more they could get out, really. I don't particularly blame Fotheringham for the situation we're in, the results we've got over the last 5 games. I think there are issues there, and I think really he's probably doing more or less as well as someone with more experience would do. So again, that's another area we can look at Bromby as a decision maker for football club. Has he got it that wrong at this particular point in time? I'd say no. So in reality, I might get slammed for this, but I can't see a real rationale for why you'd put the blame or a significant part of the blame at Bromby's door. I think it's understanding the tools that he's got, recognising he's an employee of the football club. He doesn't make his own agenda, he doesn't make his own ability to spend money. And given the situation that he's got, he might have got a few things wrong. He might have picked one player rather than another, but I don't think there's a whole host of blame significantly attached to him. Above him, fair enough. Completely understand that. I think that there's been a significant lack of investment in the football club. I think that's been recognised, and there's significant gaps in recruitment. That's been recognised. But if you've only got so much money, it's how do you go get another central midfielder? There's no budget for it. That's not Bromby's fault. Another thing I'd add is we don't really know. That's just assumptions. We don't really know what the budget was, what the situation was, what questions have been asked, who Bromby's put in front of people, who's Bromby's put in front of his seniors and said, this is what we need, and what he's been told whether to go away or okay, go and find someone he hasn't. So the vitriol that Bromby got, I think, is unjustified. I think ultimately, it's a testament to football fans and the situation we face at the moment with football fans. It's that fact. It's instant success. And it's not going right. The answer seems to be abuse. I think it's shocking. Some of the chance that Bromby got in the Blackburn away and on Saturday, I think, is absolutely shocking. I don't think it's justified. I think you should, if you've got an issue with it, fair enough. But I think Bromby's a wanker. Bromby's a wanker from the first minute. We're even losing. I think is absolutely shocking. I think people need to recognise his position in the club and his ability to make a significant difference and a change isn't necessarily there, and it's not necessarily his fault. That's my opinion. I think people might disagree with it, but I do feel quite strongly about it, and I don't think it's fair on him as the man, to be honest.
No, I don't either. I'm just looking at the last time. Swiss Ramble usually post the wage bills, don't they, for the championship of what people are on, and the last one they posted out was last year. So a lot of this information is out of date, but it's still relevant in a lot of ways. And it's got the championship wages per year. Aston Villa, which is from 2018-19, top at 83 million. Leeds United 78 million. West Brom 67. Stoke 56. Norwich 51. Sheffield United 41. Derby 40. All the way down 23rd place. Hull City 18 million pounds. That's double. And the last place, Rotherham United 8 million, and that's from 2018-19. Everyone at the club's got an hand tied behind the back, and like David Wagner always used to say, if I make one tiny mistake at this football club, then it becomes a huge mistake. And he used to say, if Jurgen Klopp makes a tiny mistake, nobody notices. And it's that kind of thing. And Huddersfield Town live and die by things like that. And some of the recruitment could have been better. I still think some of the loans in particular, haven't worked out. And I think when that happens, you've got to sort of front up and say, yep, that was my decision. It didn't work out. So let's go to what is happening on YouTube. There's been plenty of chat about this, which we can pick up. Let's have a look here. Oh, there's quite a lot. This is why I'm scrolling up here. Right. So Dean Smith. Let's start with Dean. Fans praying for Simpson is worrying. My mate is an Ipswich fan and he's not bothered. He's come to us. Couldn't get in their team and didn't pull up many trees on loan. Yeah, I think Tyree Simpson has been a B team signing, hasn't he? I don't think there are any qualms. Strikers cost a lot of money. Even B team strikers cost a lot of money. But yeah, I don't think Tyree Simpson is going to come in and be the answer straight away, especially as he's jumping up 2 divisions effectively, because the last time he was playing was at Swindon, in the bottom tier. Leo says, try Hudlin, bring him back, nothing to lose. He says, don't see us being active in the transfer window unless someone buys the club before January. Unfortunately, that can't happen from what Dave Baldwin was saying, 3-month minimum, as soon as someone's interested. And Huddersfield Town, from what I understand, or what Dave Baldwin says, is they haven't opened the data room yet, which is where people go in and scour through the books. So if that's not available yet, that was on his interview, that might be available now, then you're not looking before the end of the season, in my opinion. So we'll come to another point on that. Dag Barnett says, in fact, Terry72 says, I'm not the biggest Bromby fan, but what better players on manager could he get with the money Hoyle is telling him to spend? He also says, Radoni's a class player, just needs that first goal. Dag Barnett says, Bromby with Phil Hodgkinson behind him last summer, great recruitment. Bromby without Phil Hodgkinson, less so. Coincidence or underlying issue? The damage was done in the summer, and I don't really know what Bromby could have done. Hands of Stone, very succinct, says shite. Get them all out at the top. So could have wasted a lot. I think we've wasted a lot of time. We could have just said that, couldn't we? Leo says, why sign Simpson and Hudlin? Kasumu is another Carl Dempsey. I think that's wrong on Kasumu. I think Kasumu is a decent player, good young player, and I think he's showed up quite well so far this season. I think he's been one of our better players. Simpson, they're essentially trying to make a decent striker, aren't they? They've got a couple of $100,000 to spend. You can't buy anyone on a couple of $100,000. It's just the way it is. Not someone who's ready-made to go into the Championship. Dag Barnett says, the one challenge I would make to Bromby is, why did he stay and not follow Carlos? You could applaud his loyalty, but question his common sense. His career must have been impacted. John Shaw says, Dean Hoyle surely has to be careful. Relegation will ruin any chance of selling the club. He wouldn't be able to give it away, would he? I think that's the next point on my agenda. Leo says, agree, John, we'll struggle to get a buyer in our position. Terra72 says, Hoyle left the club in a mess for Phil and people blame Phil. Hoyle took over running of the club and now leaving and everyone's blaming Bromby. Real reason we are where we are, and it's Hoyle. Dag Barnett says, I struggle to understand Dean Hoyle's strategy. Keep Carlos, support him, and he has a much more attractive asset to sell. What he has is something considerably less than it could and should have been. Okay. So I did tweet a few weeks ago when Dean said he was selling the club about how I felt it was wrong to call Dean Hoyle a load of names, and I still feel the same way. I still feel it's wrong to for people to especially when you look back at the 10 years and people are saying, oh, well, Dean Hoyle's going to end, we're going to be in the same position as he picked us up in, but it's not true. It's first top flight football for 45 years. Look at the work that Huddersfield Town do in the community, the breakfast clubs, the town foundations, the Yorkshire Air Ambulance stuff, the bike rides, the players that we've had through the doors, the longest spell in the top 2 tiers since the 1970s. Dean Hoyle's done a lot right for this football club. So I don't think sending an abuse because of the situation we're in is right at all. But I did say you can question some of the decisions he's made, and I feel that that's absolutely fine. You should always question those that own the club and hold them to account if you believe that you're in the right. And that's fine. And we always try and represent as many views as we can on this podcast. If somebody in the comments wanted to dive in now and say why Lee Bromby is useless and should sack him, and we should sack him, I'll read it out and we'll comment on it. It's it's an open forum for people to get involved. But I struggle to pin that blame on Lee. The question now, Jonny, Kosi, is how do we get out of the situation that we're in? It's very difficult. I'm resigned pretty much to relegation. Apathy's ringing around. The only real sort of thing, the only person that can save us, in my opinion, ironically, is Dean Hoyle. We're short in so many areas, aren't we? Especially up front. I think we've been very unfortunate in that Danny Ward and Jordan just seem to have, performance level. I don't want to dig them out too much because I thought they were both fantastic last year. And Kosi, that moment when Jordan Rhodes sticks the ball in the net against Luton, you'll remember that for the next 20 years, won't you?
Matt, let me read. The last time we were in the shit in the COVID season, the team that beat West Brom to send our friends up to the Premier League. Jonas Lossell in goal.
Your friends.
Trevor Chalobah, who today are watching against Arsenal, like Premier League starter. Richard Stearman, okay. Christopher Schindler, he wasn't too bad. Schindler, I don't know if you ever heard of him. Toffolo, he wasn't a bad player. Andy King, okay. Jonathan Ogg, Chris Willock, this guy we'll see on Tuesday night. Lewis O'Brien, he wasn't bad. Janini Bakuna, Fraser Campbell. The bench, Steve Mounier, Carlin Grant, Emil Smith-Rowe, Elias Kachunga. And that team just about scraped up, man. And we're talking about quality and, yeah, all right, the parachute payments, etc. There's a lot of them, probably guys that we'd probably have been off. But just look at the names there, the quality on that compared to now. It's chalk and cheese, isn't it? It's scary. It's absolutely scary.
And
but
again, you compare the wage bill. The wage bill was what?
Yeah,
it's close to 30 million at that point, and now it's it is what it is. And I know, and a lot of Huddersfield fans are fine. They're not nerds like us, are they? They don't sit there and drone on about football like we do. And everybody who watching us drone on is very different to a lot of fans, and we love you for it, by the way. But a lot of people that go in the stand, they're not bothered about the fact that Lee Bromby's revolutionised the analysis team. The work he's done with putting other structures in place with regards to we've got more youth players in the first team than we've had since Young Guns. That they've come through what Lee Bromby set up in the academy. A lot of the fitness and the physio stuff, and all this, all the other stuff. A lot of Huddersfield fans are bothered about is what the team looks like at 3 p.m. on Saturday and what the result is at 4:45, and that's absolutely fine. They don't listen to idiots like us. That's fine.
Do they though, Matt? Because how much of I knew people last year who were giving Carlos some right hammer. The football were crap. It were boring. Bring back Carlos. This were like deep into the season, so I know people who were like, "So what do people want?" Now, and all of a sudden, we're playing a bit better. We're getting loads of young guys in the team, obviously not by chance, but because we have to, and that as well. And it's an issue because we're not winning. But when we were winning before, people were bored, and I would bring back Danny Cowley. I were hearing from some people. So it's like, what the town fans want this swashbuckling football for £250 a year.
Do the Stan Turner quote. Do it.
Oh no, you know what I'm going to say, but it's just like I think that's why I find it, Matt, hard to. It's not apathy at all for me. It's like if I'm paying £500 for a season for my season card, right? And this is happening, and we're not kind of recruiting and like kind of better and that as well. I am mad, but we're not. We're paying absolute peanuts like to watch our team with an owner who's like, he's given us like 12 amazing years, pretty much by and large. All right, 1 or 2 interesting other seasons, but it's like that's why I find it hard to get mad because like at Fotheringham because he's got there where he has to play. I don't think that's apathy. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just like I can't really get mad with anyone at the moment because it's just like we've got an owner who wants out. We've got a young coach who's learning the ropes. We've got a squad decimated by injuries. We've got young guys learning by mistakes and finding it on the job. It's like, I think that's probably where the Bromby things come because it's really weird for me. I didn't feel any of this in any of the other games, or maybe I don't follow the right Facebook or Twitter things. And so it kind of really shocked me yesterday, the vitriol and the anger. There were none of it on Wednesday. I didn't hear any Bromby Out chants on Wednesday, anything. And all of a sudden, yesterday, before, like you said, Jonny, when it even started, like, off we went. And really weird. But people are like...
Because sometimes football fans, situations like you've just described, when you do describe it, it is a car crash situation. Sometimes, like, football fans can actually, do you know what I mean, see a bit of positivity where it doesn't exist. I just remember, like, Derby when they came to our place back in the last season. Probably best away fans we saw last season. Absolutely incredible. Look what happened to their club. And I know it's a bit like them versus us, but it's a shame that they didn't want to see we're going down. Not once. It was, do you know what I mean? It's everything that was just positive. The club was an absolute crisis. It might not even exist this season yet. I thought the fans were brilliant. Whereas, I mean, I was just embarrassed to be in the away end of Blackburn. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm, like, say we said before, because I'm getting old, and I don't know. Maybe I just don't see it as banter, but it's embarrassing singing like we're going down. I would never got that as a way to support your club, and I don't know. And like, we are in a bit of a crap situation. We are up against it, and like, I mean, there's a very real chance we'll be in League One next year. But like, sometimes in the face of adversity, you get those little moments, and like, sometimes football fans can, I mean, have a bit of positivity and actually try and make a difference. But I don't know. I just feel like everyone's just resigned to it. And it's almost like it's just fun and games now to the end of the season. Let's have a laugh and take the piss out of the football club, which I just don't think is the right approach. But
it got us through the Premier League relegation, to be fair, Johnny, didn't it? With the
it did.
But that was kind of like deserved in a way, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was kind of different. It felt different. But
yeah,
this feels just a bit
I
more
guess where we were falling
cynical
from, really. It was like coming back off holiday and having a bit of a laugh, wasn't it? But
yeah,
this is like getting sacked from your job.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Leo says 32 quid at QPR on Tuesday, Kosi. That's not peanuts. You need to get the silver package, Lee. That's the trick to QPR, and then move across. Move across, because those ones won't sell out. So, yeah, that's the trick that you do there. God. Don't get the gold one. Get the silver one, Lee.
You know what, Matt? Here we go. But what I was already saying how bad West Brom were last week, etc., etc. So, obviously, QPR won, West Brom 2 yesterday. It's bloody hell. Can't we get one of these results like that where it's just don't... It's just like, you don't expect it, man.
Well, we need them, don't we? Need to win. It was QPR 0, West Brom 1. Do you know what the good thing? Well, the interesting thing is, Kosi, that QPR haven't scored for 3 games. So, you know what's happening, don't you? On Tuesday night, the floodgates are going to open, aren't they? Yeah, they've not scored for... So what have they done, QPR, lately? They've done 0-0 against Norwich, lost 1-0 to West Brom, like you say. Lost 2-0 to Birmingham, but then beat Wigan 2-1. Yeah, QPR are a good side. They had a little mini blip. But yeah, it's going to be very difficult. We essentially need to beat QPR and Swansea, don't we, in the next 2 games, just to keep in touch, and then hopefully get players back during the World Cup break. It's really, really, really difficult. John Shaw says anybody paying 32 quid needs sectioning. For QPR, I've got to agree with that. But yeah, like I said, going back at Cos, I was saying Dean Hoyle really is the only one who can pull Huddersfield Town out of this position. And what he's really got to think about, and what I would be thinking about if I was him, and obviously he's obviously, if he's ill, etc., he's obviously going to have more important things on his mind than us knobheads, rambling on about, speculating about how to spend Dean's money, etc. But, Dean wants to sell this football club, and, if it's anything like the previous sale, he's going to want all his money back, from the prospective buyer. Canal Side, he's going to want to shift Canal Side, which is going to be 5 or 6 million quid. The shares for the stadium, he's still, they're still owned by, they're still part of the deal, or they were with Phil. So I presume gone back. So there's going to be all sorts of these little things that are going to accrue to being quite a healthy fee. And let's speculate and say 50 million quid, Johnny, because Dean's probably owed he was owed something like 30 odd million, and he reckoned he came back and had to put another 10 back in, didn't he? So, crude maths, 40 million, 5 or 6 million for Canal Side, whatever rest. You know, you're looking towards 50 million quid. You are not going to sell a League One football club for 50 million quid. No way, never. Never, never, never. Not Huddersfield Town. Maybe if Leeds United had dropped to, or, you know, Man City or something had dropped to the third tier, maybe then. But you're not going to sell Huddersfield Town in the third tier for 50 million quid. So what are you going to do? The best chance he's got of getting his money back or selling the club for something that he wants to do is to invest in January to try and keep Huddersfield Town in this league. Otherwise, he's going to be stuck with an asset, or not really an asset, is it? He's going to be stuck with a ball and chain around his neck and a big debt that he can't get, you know, that he can't push on for love nor money. So he's in a difficult spot here because he's in a stick or twist position, isn't he? So either he puts in another couple of million quid, which, in fairness, I'd be loath to do if I was in his position. I wouldn't want to have to keep putting money into, you know, what could be a black hole at this point. But Huddersfield Town go down, and his chances of selling the club just drop through the floor. If Huddersfield Town stay up, he could still get that money back that he spent in January, you know, on top of it at the end of the season when a sale's likely to go through. For me, he's the only one who can say, it's like our Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi, save us now. You know, he's the only one, Jonny, isn't he, that he can literally pull us out, because he's not going to sell it before the window. It's all down to Dean Hoyle, and I've always said about Dean Hoyle, I've always liked Dean, but I've always said the way that he'll be remembered is how he walks out of the door rather than the way he walked in it. So it's up to Dean. Can he do all he can to keep Huddersfield in the league, or is he just going to settle?
It's not just finding a buyer, because obviously it's who you sell to, because Derby were effectively a League One club when they were bought, and they were bought for actually bang on 50 million. And then they bought the training ground as well as part of that. But I guess that was a fan that's bought that in a stressed situation. So he effectively was their Dean Hoyle in all intents and purposes. But we've kind of exhausted our multi-millionaires Huddersfield. So we're probably shopping in a different market now. But yeah, it's not just attracting a buyer, because obviously a League One club, for very obvious reasons, isn't as attractive a purchase as it would be if he's a Championship club. But I know Dean Hoyle said when we were back in League One that it cost to him to run the club was roughly around £5-6 million a year, and that's why it was so crucial that we were promoted to Championship back in 2012, because obviously that money was offset by television money, etc. So it's the issue of him finding a club, what he'd be able to ask for the club by way of a purchase price, but also how many millions he's going to have to put in the club to keep it solvent. There are contracts that expire into this year, but there's also other players that are contracted who might well have relegation clauses down to League One. But it's certainly going to cost Dean Hoyle around £4-5-6 million a year to fund the football club as a League One club, just purely for the money that will go out from TV money in League One. So to ask him to put in X amount of money to try and buy the quality and fund the players to just keep it in the Championship isn't a ridiculous ask, even from a purely, mercenary financial decision. It's probably the right thing to look to do. But I guess it's a gamble. It's where we are when we get to January, and is there a chance? How many millions will it take to make that difference? How many points are we going to be behind versus how many millions will need to be spent? And does he then at that point just make the financial decision that we are down, and if he chucks another £3-4 million at it, it's only going to be the £3-4 million that he could have used next season to fund the club? So it's going to be a gamble. And if you're looking at financial modelling, what's the best thing to do? And it's whether, like you say, it's whether he looks at his legacy versus his ability to sell the club versus his ongoing financial commitment to it. But I agree that it is the only situation. It isn't good because he's selling the club, therefore you might not want to put any money in. But ultimately, a Championship club is going to be better for everyone involved in buying and selling Huddersfield Town Football Club. So hopefully he shares that viewpoint, but it's still going to gamble either way, because we know the money isn't necessarily going to buy success, and the money spent, it doesn't buy success. He's ultimately in a worse situation. So it's not black and white, really.
What kind of owner do you want? Obviously, we're Huddersfield Town, and we're not going to have our pick of potential owners. We're not going to sit there and go through 20 candidates and go, oh, do you know what, that billionaire, that one, oh, that guy owns 3 countries. We could have, it's not going to be like that, is it? But it came to me as quite an interesting question from someone else, and it was like, would you, Newcastle fans are having the time of their lives at the minute, aren't they? Despite where their money comes from and the issues around that. But would you accept something like that, Huddersfield Town? I think the answers on this might be a little bit different. Would you want a local owner with less money? Would you want someone who's British? Are you bothered about them being American and front-loading the club with debt? Chinese, whatever. Is there any preference, or are you bothered? Or is anybody bothered? Because I'm not sure Huddersfield fans are overly bothered, to be honest, as long as the team's all right.
No, there's a very strong preference for me. And again, I don't know how popular. I had a bad experience away at Blackburn, so I'm a little bit kind of anti some of our fans at the moment. That's just my personal situation. But I don't know how popular this will be. But I think some fans need to have a bit of a reality check. But there's one preference I have. There's one thing that I want our next owner, our next steward of Huddersfield Town is to have the club's long-term future. To a certain extent, but the club's long-term future at heart, to create the football club that's sustainable. Because I was around when there was a real chance that the football club might exist, and I've got a very, very good mate who's a Derby fan, and I've had him on the phone in tears to me, thinking about what would he do if his football club didn't exist. He wanted to take his little lad, who was 5, to a Derby game. He's been three games this season, his first 3 games, and he thought he might never get to take his lad to a football game. I've got a 1-year-old. I want to take my lad to a football game like my dad took me and his dad took him. And I know it's people might think, I just don't know what he's on about. But that's for me what we need. We want someone who's... that's more important. And we're in a crap situation at the moment. Fair enough. We'll always be in a crap situation. Football is very cyclical. It has ways of having ups and downs. You've got to enjoy the bad times and enjoy the good. And for me, it's someone who's going to be able to protect the long-term future of the football club. I don't want someone who's going to try and gear it and try and gamble and risk the long-term future football club for success. That might work, fair enough, but it also might not work. And for me, it might be boring. It might be like people think, where's the ambition? Okay, you can have ambition, but you can have sensible ambition. So to me, the one thing that I would say, what would I prefer, is someone who is a steward of the football club, and in all intents and purposes understands what being a steward of the football club is. And I think one thing you can always say for Dean Hoyle, he has done that. People might disagree with that, but he has done that. And I think that's one thing that's really important. And hopefully you will pass the club on to someone who has that same moral compass and will continue to do that. It might not be pretty, it might be League One football, but ultimately what's more important than anything is actually having a football club.
Kosi, any preference? Someone with no hair? Usually go for bald. Sorry, mate. I put you on mute there because you were playing La Liga highlights, so I put you on mute.
Oh, mate, it's just been an incredible goal. Honestly, mate, what a game! 3 sendings off, 2 goals, madness. I mentioned it last week. Again, I mentioned about values and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's probably just best to put last week's on. But yeah, it matters to me. I don't want Saudi Arabian money. I would just want someone, who just kind of gets the values in the area and stuff like that as well. Their own kind of owners are dying. Well, obviously, there's not a lot of money in the UK at the moment, is there? So abroad is where it's at. But a lot in Spain, there's a lot of cryptocurrency stuff, Matt, and dodgy incomes and investments and stuff that people don't know anything about. I know there's obviously that Price of Football guy tweets out a lot of stuff on that as well. Didn't he tweet something about Birmingham that had some kind of copy.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it were launched as a big. You probably know a bit more than me, but cut a long story short, this kind of firms.
They've had money put into the club to get those loan players, which hasn't been sanctioned or something by the Football League or something like that. So the money that they've used to go get these loan players who are getting them points at the minute shouldn't be there technically, which is going to be interesting to see how that's dealt with. Yeah, no,
it does matter to me, but I'm afraid I'm probably a dying breed, mate, because I think, like you said, that Newcastle scenario, they're flying the money. People don't give a shit where it comes from there, mate, and it just sticks in my throat, Matt. That it's like great to have Newcastle there. This, that, and the other. And don't get me wrong, for their fans, they'd be like, we deserve it after Mike Astley, but to me, it's just just don't feel right, really. A bit like this World Cup, I suppose that's another story.
They'd probably say different if Man City weren't owned by an oil country and Chelsea hadn't had Abramovich and etc. They'd probably feel differently, but they're probably thinking, well, everyone else has had a go of it. We want our turn, and it's like Jonny says, it's cyclical, isn't it?
Yeah, but if Newcastle kind of got me in one concert, but you'd love it if your club had that like that. I wouldn't, but
I'm not sure.
I'd probably be a dying breed mate because I think the modern young fan. I could be totally wrong about.
It'd feel a little empty. I don't know why. It'd be great winning games and stuff, but something would feel a bit empty. And I know there's a Watford fan in our group, and he understands that they've had an amazing 10, 15, 20 years, with what's gone on there, and that they've completely overachieved. But he would be happier with a local owner and just yo you in from League One to Championship, and everybody's different.
It depends what you want to
people
do, Matt.
people in the chat, cause some people are saying Mike Ashley in the chat.
I had this debate with like Leeds fans because like at the moment they're getting, it's like the next level. I'm like, mate, you're just going to be battling against relegation. The game's moved on since you were last up there. They're getting mad with the investment there.
Not Champions League, mate.
But that's just it. It's like where do you really want to go? Because like if they want to go into their level, or whether it's reckon they'll be Europe and all that, you're talking the game's totally changed. You need that kind of Saudi money. I mean, even Liverpool fans are getting frustrated. They spent 88 million on that Darwin Núñez and stuff. It really depends what you want to be. But I'm quite happy to kind of be a Championship club, but just with that, knowing that we can maybe like last year have us day in the sun. That'll do me, to be honest with you. But it just shows, doesn't it? Just a little bit. You don't get your loans right. Yeah, obviously your best players go and you don't replace and stuff, and it can go wrong so quickly. And we're a great example of that, unfortunately.
One thing I think is a bit interesting, like if you get an owner who's a bit like, foreign or Saudi, or just very much in it for like sport law and just going to get the club up, and that's the pure thing. It's things like people as uproar last season wasn't with the Blue and White Foundation offset the away tickets and the Luton away game and the vitriol that was all around Twitter around all these prawn sandwich brigade going to Luton in the playoffs. But I tell you what, if you have an owner who isn't kind of geared into the club and the fan base and is very much just through success and Moneyball, stuff like that will be more and more and more. So I think sometimes it's just remember situations like that and be a little bit careful of what you wish for.
Well, I'll finish with the comments, and Kosi's getting some pelters. Where are we? Doug Barnett says, sorry, Kosi. The price of season cards is irrelevant. People are disheartened because the club has essentially blown the chance to be better, and that's why the gallows humour is in evidence. John Shaw says, I don't think fans would object to paying more if there was a plan, some ambition and desire to put things right what went wrong. Sadly, folks no longer trust the ownership. And Max says, for me, this all comes from Dean selling to the wrong person after relegation. Expectations rose, and I think most fans would have paid more if the ambition was set by the club. It goes back to what we were saying the other week, doesn't it, about what is Huddersfield Town now? I think there's a split, isn't there? Some people think we should be pushing on, and some people are sort of thinking we're lucky to be in the division, but there's a lot of split there. Terry72 says, according to Transfermarkt website, Huddersfield Town market value is €28.95 million. And he would take Mike Ashley. Leo says, I would love some oil money. And John Shaw says, I removed the €1 million. Oil money, some oats money. Oh, right. And he also says he'd have Ashley or Marcus Evans. And the last comments are from Bez5678. Hoyle will have to write 50% of the figures you're mentioning, Matt. Better to get 25 mil for something than having to continue putting 5-6 mil a year in on January. And the 3 loans will have to go back to be replaced by players Mike Fotheringham trusts to play. Love Tino, but he's a right sick note. I saw someone mention Tino was unfit in the summer, but that wasn't true. He was flying at Chelsea with all the metrics, the fitness metrics. He was completely top of at Chelsea. He's just had a bit of an unlucky time with glandular fever, hasn't he? But apparently he's back in training, and I think after glandular fever you lose a lot of fluid, don't you, and weight and whatnot. So it might take him a while to get back up to speed, but hopefully Tino can help us get on the way. But I think that's it, guys, this week. Unless you've got any other business you want to bring up, any singing, Kosi, to cheer us up?
No, mate. I did all my singing yesterday. He would, man.
Fair enough. Thanks to everyone for joining us online. If you could click the like button, that would be very nice, because that helps put the podcast in front of more fans' eyes, and it means that all this editing and chatting isn't a waste of time for us, isn't it? So thanks for everyone who's contributed and jumped in. We really do appreciate it. And if you want to listen to a bit of Chris Carter, now's your time.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.